10. Not 1 or 100 million Americans fought to alter American government away from corruption and war for profit 50 years ago when I quit my fight to indulge instead in a half-century of drug addiction. None of us acted to effect Jefferson's damn necessary ideals, safety and happiness. So instead, we allowed $33 trillion to be stolen from our own grandkids and sanctioned our own death merchants' murder of 15 million souls in the 200 wars they fueled with American weapons. Not to mention the growing close and certain nuclear extinction of all life on Earth. Then we also said and did nothing either defensive or effective while only this one industrialized nation denied its citizens the right of health care, only granting bankruptcy when we can't pay the $1 million hospital bill. And we sit back while corporations bribe politicians to both get rich from global scorching to very soon leave billions parched for water and dying for food. Everyone hearing me, grab your pen, mouse, or phone. Mostly right politicians and federal judges. File every one of those suits yourselves. It's your life and your loved ones those defendants threaten. Go individual, class action, every way possible. Our public campaign finance revolution will spark thousands of new candidates with people, not profit love, who will throw out every single top dog, 1% fat cat, death dealer for dollars, corporate crony. How do our lawsuits finally sweep the world? One more treaty tenant. Adopting nations approaching a majority will probably have to embargo giant corrupt nuclear holdouts until their mineral and raw material depleted industries founder national economies. Then their angry, poor voters will tell those dirty leaders, we can't eat, drink, breathe, or bank your damn bribes and bombs, so join those treaties and end that embargo, or we'll replace you with leaders for our need, not your greed. Sign that border defenses only swords into plowshares treaty so we can all get back the water, food, peace, economic health, and survivable weather that we need to last 10 generations, not just 10 miserable, terrorized years. Now, you could just park it on the couch and gamble that the bomb and oil salesmen and their government lapdogs might spare a few bucks off their pile to the moon for your bottled water as soon as their CO2-scorched planet dries up every river and lake. As if everyone else about to also die of thirst had a nice surplus to sell at any damn price. And you might also wager that the 9,000 nukes that you complacently, if illegally, permit don't then also explode really fast. But I'm guessing that the dumbest bet that you ever made was 1,000,000 times smarter and safer than those turkeys. So the one fire not a one of us can live without better be blazing up where? Just below your butt, mutt. Right under your ass, Cass. We fail to oppose nuclear weapons with all of our minds, hearts, and actions because few have read John Hershey's 6 Survivors. First-person stories of horror and hurt from the first atomic hate bombing of humanity. Allow me to paraphrase their words. At 8 a.m., a tiny black dot was seen drifting downward from a single B-29. appearing to be just another harmless surveillance plane buzzing softly a mile above 100,000 workers and children walking and biking to their cheerful duties in a city abuzz with rumors of a peace deal with mighty, victorious America. Suddenly, an unearthly white flash blinded every eye. In a single second, 100 million degree, 5 mile, 500 mile an hour fist smashed every house and human, ending or ruining most Hiroshima lives. The minutes passed as multitudes lay, survivors in horrible head-to-toe pain where they had been slammed down. Near ground zero, thousands close to the fireball were now only charcoal human silhouettes imprinted on streets and buildings. Everywhere miles of roaring fires roiled into the smoke-black sky. Truly hell on earth, lacking only the glittering leer, horns, and pitchfork of the triumphant devil himself, who was busy enough far away, dancing with revenge in so many captured black human hearts. Tens of thousands of the wounded stumbled along miles of pathways next to Hiroshima's Central Canal, now red with the blood of masses of screaming, full body burned, unable to ease their agony in the foul water. Many walkers clutched a hand or shoulder in front, their own eyeballs torn out of charred sockets, often dangling down by tendrils of vessel and nerve. Most of those caught outdoors by the blast were naked, all clothing burned off, long strips of charred skin dangling from bloody, torn muscles, and trails spilling out. Between the falling crashes of timbers and shattered, blazing houses came the rising wails of broken, pinned residents. Beyond the feeble help of those fleeing the ruined city, these trapped tens of thousands would not spend a last half hour contemplating their ending history of worthwhile, loving lives, for they were otherwise occupied, roasting alive. Many historians recount the 30-year genesis of this ultimate horror and savagery as deliberate strategy of total war upon innocent civilian non-combatants. World War I General Billy Mitchell pioneered terror bombing. Fly your planes peacefully over the dangerous troops approaching your national borders, he instructed his bomber pilots. Keep going and dump everyone on all those women and children left in the enemy's central cities. Such mass murder and awful suffering of the grieving survivors should skyrocket appeals to their own government to surrender before we will fly back to smear their last babies into the rubble. I repeat the giant evil of giant bombs to make you try 1,000 times to outlaw them until you do. To this very day, Syria's Assad continues bombing to death a second 500,000 house dwellers to crush the last resistance to his brutal regime. He's shredded more bodies and babies than did both atom bombs on Japan, just by merrily rolling barrels full of nails and TNT out of helicopters. His daddy did the same damn thing. I'll bet you a cookie that both had an extra Y chromosome, as do 50% of jailed violent criminals. The point of my speech? Until we genetically repair every male fetus, take away the boys' toys, every damn weapon of physical, legal, financial, and political genocide, then never again let them bribe our public not private servants to buy more. Well, duh! Japan had just offered to surrender if Truman left their emperor on a figurehead throne. Harry rejected this otherwise unconditional surrender because in another 2 weeks his double nuclear city slaughter would be ready. Not only would this consummate the $2 billion Manhattan Project, but the president planned to perpetrate these titanic tragedies to intimidate his new archenemy Russia. Having immediately forgotten her sacrifice of 22 million to defeat our enemy Hitler. The Soviets were then obligingly frightened enough to doom all humanity by completing their half of nuclear winter extinction. Once bully Truman's politics by other means genocide was accomplished, of course they could keep their silly emperor. 32 more million have died in wars since then, many in foreign nation bombing attacks on civilians. Over half killed by American weapons which the death merchants bribed leaders to buy, deploy, and kill with in invasion, not defensive wars. Everyone, plus the coming nuclear end of the world prohibited by our world treaty and peace-demanding constitutions. Every year in Hiroshima they lay flowers on a little plaque that simply says, "Never again." No one has ever listened to them since or acted in mercy, except perhaps you. Now, are you getting the idea that I'm a totally weird, destroy weapons by law fast nutball? Just about every other peace promoter in history except Bertrand Russell, who marched millions and browbeat Kennedy and Khrushchev into banning all above-ground nuclear test explosions, mused about a slow century of moral teaching and growth guiding war tyrants and mushroom cloud fetishists away from their cruel passions and profits. Good karma, pretty please, peace through the air by ESP. 10,000 years we've waited for this human sweetness revolution. Ain't gonna happen. Murder Incorporated declare bankruptcy? Go into widgets instead? I told you how they declared a new century of slaughter when threatened by World War II's blessed end. Genocide is insane male humanity's fattest business. Their bribes are merely a clever 10,000th as big as their legislators' trillions quid pro quos that keep their death business booming. Legally, but only because we all ignore the exact definition of felony government bribery. Payments in exchange for official acts. While also forgetting that every violent attack that invites nuclear revenge from terrorists that we won't be able to stop is expressly prohibited by our Constitution that orders our best defense against invasion. Apparently only Abe Lincoln knew that the best national defense is to make friends of all your enemies. Apparently only you and I know that this only happens when all opponents agree to eliminate attack, overkill armies. So, our lawyers must argue in federal courts. Judge, nuclear disarmament is world and national law that our Constitution orders every government officer, especially you, to uphold, obey, and enforce. Those framers also made us equal as voters, obviously, constitutionally, never subject to overwhelming, bought, one-sided propaganda against our founders' general welfare order. For environmental devastation, wars of aggression, and very soon human extinction, all inflicted for merely fat cat's very temporary money. Honey, that's right. Our founders order every public servant to help us all, never hurt us all, bloody ruling out special favors, not to mention trillions to big dog polluters and weaponeers to advance their business of killing every cell on earth for fat temporary profits in the ever shrinking, shorter meantime. Your Honor, just totally take over nuclear negotiations for our criminal executive branch. Work with all foreign courts and politicians to make every bomb holder destroy an equal fraction of their arsenals annually. Conduct all weapon destruction on world TV. The 186 non-bomb signatories of their Ban the Bomb Treaty must also be pressed by you and every other national court to obey most of humanity's treaty law requiring every nation to muscle the world-destroying nuclear powers out of their doomsday bombs and missiles. International success of our 54-year-old Ban the Bomb Treaty enforcement lawsuits and court bans of bribery, meaning all private gifts to politicians, will elect uncorrupted, people-loving, and protecting leaders who should enthusiastically negotiate a border defenses only, swords into plowshares new treaty, knowing that only trillions in former murder money will buy their voters less CO2, more water, and enough cultivated food to stay alive. You write every violent, neglectful leader, blow our last chance and forget re-election, not to mention your own survival, right? You burn 100 hours a week to give your family a future. Now, utterly gone in years, not decades, unless you add just one more 60-minute project to build the only world that you can live long and prosper in, Mr. Spock.